As of yesterday morning, that island was 89% white. Unfortunately, and this really is the point, Martha's Vineyard is one of a dwindling number of beautiful places left in our country. Martha's Vineyard is what most of America once was, not all that long ago. Small, socially cohesive, orderly, safe, with traditional human-centered architecture and big stretches of nature unspoiled by industrial wind farms and dollar stores. The people who live in Martha's Vineyard now didn't build any of that. The people who did build it are long gone, along with the attitudes and values that made it possible. The people who live there now just came for the nostalgia, and all that's left, really, are the buildings and the beaches, but still, you'd hate to see them wrecked. On the other hand, at this point, we may have no choice. No sane country would allow millions of foreign nationals to walk across its borders illegally and then immediately give them government benefits in exchange for mocking our rule of law. No one would ever do that. It is suicide. Over time, it will destroy the United States. This is our country. We were born here. We plan to die here. We have nowhere else to go, and we don't want to live in a slum.
I think it's safe to say that a rant like that could not have been on the news 5 years ago. Like, I don't think you could have said, like, that is one of the most explicitly racist things I've ever seen a person in a suit and a tie say into an expensive camera and suffer no consequences for. He said, we used to have lots of these places that were white, that were beautiful, and now, unfortunately, we don't. They're being wrecked by migrants. They're being wrecked by non-white people. Their social cohesion is being destroyed. They're being turned into slums because they're not these lily white places anymore. That is not the subtext of what he said. That's the text of what he said. You could read all sorts of additional stuff into it, but Tucker Carlson, as of right now, we're in, September 2022, he is fully confident that he can simply say explicitly racist things as commentary on the topical news of the day, and he will suffer no consequences, and his audience will love him more and more for it, David.
I think that's such a good point about how much our sort of values have changed and our standards have changed. I remember, I think it was only like 9 or 10 years ago when another former colleague from MSNBC, Pat Buchanan, was bounced out for saying things, for writing things that were far less incendiary than what Tucker Carlson just said. And Pat was sort of said, okay, you're out of here, goodbye forever. And yet Tucker Carlson is celebrated, and people on the right say, aha, he's onto something, when it's so clear. I think if you step back, yes, it is obviously racist. We all know what Tucker Carlson is getting at. And when he talks about the beaches being ruined, I still don't understand how do 50 people from Venezuela and Colombia somehow ruin your beach. I don't get that, unless, of course, you were somebody who was racist, who is afraid of people who are different than you.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, that's all it is. And again, we're supposed to, racism doesn't exist. You're not allowed to call them extremists. You're not allowed to call them racist, despite what they're saying. And you might occasionally see someone that you think is a leftist going on that show and not bringing up this absolute dehumanizing language, these narratives designed to get white conservatives to be terrified of how their societies are being ruined by non-white people. And paired with all of the violence we've already seen, the threats of future violence, Tucker Carlson is a part of that, pushing towards ideological-based violence, race-based violence, and it's perfectly okay. He's not going to get any trouble. He is going to say that stuff this year. He's going to make tens of millions of dollars, conservatively, for saying these explicitly racist things, and then we're just expected to go on with our lives.